In today's video, I'm going to be talking about how I am doing my ground cover for the Peabody Merrimack Valley Railroad. When I put colors down, I think it's important to put a lot of different colors down to give some variation. Mother Nature is never monotone. There's always lots of different colors, so I like to add some variety how I do my ground cover and bushes. This is a part that I completed, and you can see the bushes and underbrush. Here's another hillside that I did. So, without further ado, let's get started. So this is where I stopped putting down the turf, and today what we'll be doing is continuing and covering this part of the hill in the corner. So the four fine turf colors that I use for my ground cover is burnt grass, green grass, earth, and soil. And the four coarse turf colors I use are light green, dark green, burnt grass, and yellow grass. And with the yellow grass, I use it sparingly. For the some of the adhesive that I use before I put the fine turf down is Mod Podge mixed with water. And I don't know if you guys have heard of Luke Towan. He's got a big channel. He's a brilliant scenery guy. He's got a lot of good videos on YouTube. And I learned from him that you can take Mod Podge and mix it with water. You do 1 part Mod Podge to 3 parts water. And what you do is you take that mixture and you take a brush and you brush it onto the surface where you want to put down your turf, so that it'll adhere to the surface. And you'll see me do that in the video here. But on the right, you'll see that's the 3 parts water to 1 part Mod Podge, and I'm using a foam brush to put the diluted glue down. Okay, the first thing I do, like I said, I learned from Luke Towan, is I take this glue mixture, this diluted glue, and I paint the surface using my sponge. Just putting on a thin coat just to give the fine turf something to cling to. Because it's diluted, it spreads, you don't need a whole lot. It spreads pretty evenly. You don't want to do too big of a section, or you don't want the glue to dry. And what I'll do is I'll start off with a dark color. Start off with the fine, and I'll do the dark color. I'll start off with the soil mixture. And then you just shake it and you get it on there. It doesn't have to be it's okay to leave bare spots because you're going to fill it in with other colors. What I like to do is use a lot of different colors to kind of get a more realistic, nature is not monotone with colors. There's always a lot of different colors. And if you feel like you've done a little too much, you can always tone it down with other colors. Like they say, Woodland Scenic says, these colors are meant to be worked together. Then I go with a little bit lighter. I'm using the earth color. Now I've got the green grass. This is when you start seeing the green starting to come through. Okay, now we're going to go with the burnt grass. Kind of gives it some different colors. And this, I'm using this a little sparingly because I don't want to cover over the green, but it makes the green not be so bright, kind of tones it down. Yeah, that's the burnt grass. Now I'm going to go. What I do after this is I will spray it with Woodland Scenics Scenic Cement, Scenic Sprayer, and I'll cover the whole thing with Scenic Cement and let it dry. And then I will do the coarse turf next. Just kind of spray it over. Now I'm going to go ahead and continue with the coarse turf. I'm going to be putting down the dark green first. And you don't want to cover it, you just want to kind of get some highlights. Kind of gives the grass more texture when it's in the wild. It's nothing's really even. Give it some texture. Now I'm going to be doing the light green. Again, adding some highlights and lowlights. This you want to use sparingly because it stands out more. That just a little bit. Then maybe a little bit of burnt grass. Again, giving it variation. And then lastly, this is what I use sparingly, yellow grass. It's this is a lighter color, so I just only do a little bit, very little bit. Then if you feel like it's too bright, it needs to be low, it needs to be toned down a little bit, you can always go back and add a little bit of darker colors with the fine turf. You can always go back and kind of just tone it down a little bit. I think that looks pretty good. Maybe a little bit of the darker soil. Oh, a little too much. And if you put too much on, you can always go back and fix it with more color. The light green. Green grass. I'll put more of this coarse light green back on. Kind of got covered over. You can always fix your mistakes. If you put too much in one spot, you can just fix it right over. So what I'll do is I'll spray it with the Scenic cement, and then I will go ahead and we'll put some underbrush and clump foliage in. So now I'll be putting some underbrush in, and to glue it down, you use this Woodland Scenics. I use the Scenic glue, And it comes with a nozzle that you just kind of squirt wherever you want underbrush to be. Just kind of do it a random pattern. Maybe here, maybe over here, maybe over here. You want to do different shapes because nothing is uniform in nature. So you can, I'm going to be using the dark green underbrush. And you just grab it with your fingers. And just lay it down over the glue. Just shape it with your fingers. And kind of add some variation. I've got some light green underbrush. I'll put in the other locations here. And you just press it into the glue. That. Okay, and then if you look at the bushes, for instance, it's like one color. And again, I'm a big believer in changing colors, getting variation. So because it's a dark green, I like to use a lighter color to kind of give it some contrast. And you just very lightly put some fine turf. I'm using the burnt grass fine turf. And I just very lightly put it over the bush. Just a little bit. Just to give it some highlights. And for the lighter green bushes, I like to bring it out with some dark green, some green grass to kind of, again, give it some contrast. So in this bush, I'll be using the green grass. Just very lightly. Give it some, you can kind of play with it and get it to, if there's a little bit too much in one spot, you can kind of play with it with your finger to kind of blend it in a little bit. And it gives it a little bit of variation. So these two bushes here, I added some variation here. And I did a little bit here. Added some dark green grass to kind of give it a little texture. So that concludes this video. This is to show you guys how I do my ground cover. Obviously, you can do it any way you want. I just wanted to show you guys how I do it. I'm pretty happy with the textures and the variation in color. I think it looks pretty good. So take care, and we'll see you in the next video.